My name is Justin, 65 years old, a time when some people count screws, but I count the milliseconds until payback. At 6:40 a.m., December 24th, there was a knock at my workshop door. A cup of black coffee cooled on the windowsill. A 10X loop hung over my desk, and a thin trail of snow lay on the mat, like a trace of time someone had carried inside. The courier handed me a box tied with coarse twine and said only, from Vincent. His voice caught. Vincent had died in March. My brother had left me a message 9 months later, as if time itself had been gestating a secret. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. I sliced the twine with a dull-tipped knife, the one I usually use to open packets of Mobius 9010 oil. Inside was a wooden case, smelling of resin and tobacco. On the lid, a scratch shaped like an infinity symbol. I opened it. Folders, blueprints as thin as old pocket watch dials, and a letter, 14 lines, precise as a minute hand, not a blot of ink. Brother, if you're reading this, I'm gone. These watches are worth $8 million. Keep them or save the family from itself. Vincent. I stayed silent. I know movements, anchors, balance bridges, and Breguet spirals better than I know people. I can keep a balance while steady in freezing cold or scorching heat. But keep a daughter? No. Megan had walked out 8 years ago in July, saying, "You love metal more than people." Now she dealt in antiques, rare watches, and other people's stories. And I sat there, staring at blueprints where every line felt like a coiled spring ready to fire, thinking, if Vincent mentioned family, then the bill due this Christmas wouldn't be mine alone. I switched on the desk lamp and laid the paper under the glass. This was no ordinary movement. It was something like a time capsule watch, a perpetual calendar to the year 2100, a titanium cage billion, a minute repeater with phosphor gongs, an automatic wind with a platinum microrotor. Every detail marked in Vincent's hand. Notes in the margins. Left barrel memory. Right forgiveness. Overly poetic, but mechanically flawless. At 9:15, the phone rang. Megan flashed on the screen. I sighed and answered. "Dad," she said, voice steady as a regulated chronometer. "Merry Christmas. A bit early. I heard you got a package from Uncle." News travels fast. Not news. I talked to Seth. He'd emailed Vincent. He brought you something else. Seth's coming here? Already on the way. I checked the locks. 2 turns on the safe key. Old habit. Main blueprints went into the safe, the letter into my vest pocket, the field notes under the mat, on my wall. The clocks disagree with each other. Wall clock 2 minutes slow. Display watches 5 minutes fast. But my old pocket watch with the reverse 3 was dead on. I trusted only it. By 11:30, I had calculated 180 hours of pure work minimum. 3 weeks with no holidays. If my fingers didn't betray me, Christmas wasn't a time for miracles. It was a time for reckoning. Seth showed up at 12:05, tall, hunched, in a cheap puffer jacket, with Vincent's eyes. "Uncle," he said, "you're holding his last project. I can see that, and I know who's already interested." "Megan?" He shrugged. "Be careful. I found something in Dad's notebooks about her deals." We sat over the papers. Until 2 p.m., Seth showed me a faded notebook. Dates, amounts. April 12th, client's cufflinks missing for $1,600. August 3rd, case swap, $1,200. Name Megan. No doubt left. My old fear hardened into a cold mechanism. Not pity, balance. Not anger, anchor. I, Justin, would regulate this family's movement. Through the snow-smeared window, I could already see the plan. Tonight, at the Christmas fair, there'd be lights, cinnamon, music, and a charity auction. That's where I'd show them value, not price. If this watch truly was worth $8 million, I knew exactly where it belonged. Donated to a museum. No negotiations. Megan would have no doubt whose minute of glory it was. Seth nodded. "Then we start now. But guard the blueprints. She's on her way." "I know," I said. "We've got time." Until midnight. I went to check the safe again. Fingers found the key, turned 1, 2. And just then my old pocket watch clicked. An odd sound, not its own, as if someone had nudged a minute hand early. I turned toward the table and realized one folder was gone. The safe was still open, its steel mouth gaping at me like it had swallowed more than it should. My pulse kicked up. I stepped back, scanning the workshop. No broken window, no force lock. The snow outside was unmarked. Whoever took that folder hadn't come through the door. Seth moved closer. Which one is missing? The one with the crown wheel assembly and repeater diagram. I said, my voice flat. Without it, you can't build a heart. Or, it's the only one you need if you already have the rest, Seth said. His eyes narrowed. I grabbed my magnifier, scanning the workbench. A faint streak of sawdust and oil led to the back shelf, where an air vent hung slightly ajar. I pulled it open, too small for a person, but not for a hand. The smell hit me first. Vanilla and something metallic. Megan's perfume, the one she'd worn for years when she wanted to be remembered. My phone buzzed. A known number. I answered. Silence at first, then her voice. Dad, I'm on my way over. Thought we could talk. I didn't mention the missing folder. Sure, I'll put coffee on. Seth mouthed, don't trust her. I didn't plan to. I slid the remaining folders into a smaller case, locked it, and tucked the key into the lining of my vest. An hour later, the wind was rattling the shop windows when her SUV pulled up. Megan stepped out, wrapped in a fur trim coat, smiling like it was any other Christmas Eve. She kissed my cheek, the scent of vanilla stronger now, and glanced at the workbench as if drawn to it. I heard Uncle left you something valuable, she said lightly. He left me something important. I corrected. She wandered to the desk, fingertips brushing the tools, eyes flicking to the safe. You always did hide the good stuff, she murmured. That's when Seth walked in from the back, holding a folded piece of paper. His face was pale. Justin, this was taped under the vent cover. It was a single page in the missing folder, creased, smudged, and marked with something in red ink. Just 4 words, written in a hand I recognized instantly. Museum won't save you. The handwriting was Vincent's. My brother had been dead 9 months, but the ink looked fresh, like it had been written yesterday. I turned the page over. Nothing, just that taunting line staring back at me. Megan's brows knit together. What is that? Something you wouldn't understand. I said, slipping it into my pocket. Try me, she shot back. I ignored her and poured coffee. Seth stayed by the workbench, arms crossed, eyes on her like she was a snake in the grass. She noticed. What's your problem? My problem is I know where you were 2 nights ago, he said quietly. And it wasn't at the shop like you told your dealer friend. Her smile faltered. Careful, Seth. Families shouldn't air dirty laundry at Christmas. Families shouldn't steal either, he replied. I let them circle each other while I thought about that message. Vincent had always been theatrical, but he wasn't cruel. If he'd left a warning, it meant he knew this fight would get ugly. Maybe he'd hidden more clues. After Megan left, Seth and I tore apart the shop, checking drawers under floorboards, even inside the old regulator clock that hadn't worked in years. Nothing. Then Seth froze, staring at the window. Snow was still falling, but fresh footprints. Just one set led from the shop toward the back alley. Deep prints, heavy boots. They stopped by the old trash bin and vanished. No trail leading away, no other marks. Like they were picked up, Seth muttered. I stepped outside, the cold biting my face. The air smelled faintly of exhaust. My eyes landed on a torn scrap of black leather caught on the bin's hinge. I recognized the stitching, handmade Italian. The same gloves Megan had worn tonight, which meant she hadn't just visited. She'd been here earlier, before she ever knocked on my door. I was still gripping that scrap when my phone lit up. No name, just a number I didn't know. I answered. A man's voice, low and calm. If you want the folder back, bring the blueprints to the fair tonight. Come alone. Then the line went dead. I stood in the cold alley, phone still in my hand, staring at the dark screen. The voice had been calm, deliberate, and far too confident for a stranger. Whoever it was, they knew exactly what they were asking and exactly what they were holding over me. Seth was watching from the doorway. What did they say? They want me to bring the blueprints to the Christmas fair tonight. Alone. His jaw tightened. That's a trap. I know, I said, but without that folder, the watch can't be finished. And if Megan gets it, she'll twist Vincent's work into something ugly. We went back inside. I placed the remaining folders on the bench, looking at them like they were live explosives. Every instinct told me to lock them away and walk out, but I also knew time was running out. Midnight was the unspoken deadline. Let me go with you, Seth said. No. If something happens, someone needs to protect what's left here. You think they won't come for the rest while you're gone? He had a point. I glanced at the safe, then at him. Fine. But if anything feels wrong, you leave me there and walk away. Got it. By 8, the fair was alive, strings of lights swaying in the wind, the air thick with cinnamon, roasted nuts, and the faint crackle of carolers on a loudspeaker. Families wandered past stalls. Kids dragged parents toward the carousel. It should have felt safe, but I knew better. I kept the blueprints in a leather satchel under my coat, one hand on it at all times. Every shadow looked too still, every smile too practiced. I scanned the crowd for anyone watching too closely. Then I saw her, Megan, standing by the mulled wine stall, hands in her coat pockets, eyes locked on me. No wave, no smile, just a predator waiting. Before I could move toward her, a man stepped out from between two stalls. Tall, heavy-set, wearing a knit cap pulled low. He gave the smallest nod toward the ice rink, then turned and walked away. I followed, weaving through the crowd until the noise faded. The rink was nearly empty, just a scrape of skates on ice. The man stopped at the far corner, near the maintenance shed, and turned to face me. You have what I asked for, he said. I tightened my grip on the satchel. Do you have what's mine? He smiled faintly, reached into his coat, and pulled out not the missing folder, but a small velvet pouch. When he tossed it to me, it landed at my feet with a dull metallic clink. I opened it and my stomach dropped. Inside was my old pocket watch, the one I'd left on my workbench. It was still ticking, but the hands were moving backward. The sight of those hands crawling backward twisted something in my gut. A watch running in reverse wasn't just broken. It was unnatural, a deliberate message. I looked up at the man. What does this mean? He shrugged. Only that you're out of time in the way you think of it. Where's the folder? Safe. For now. His eyes flicked toward the satchel. You give me what's in there. Maybe you get more than just that folder back. I didn't move. The cold had found its way through my gloves, biting into my fingers. Who sent you? You already know, he said, voice low. Family. The word landed heavier than the winter air. Behind us, the muffled sound of the fair carried over. The laughter, the bells, the carols. A perfect cover for something ugly. Your brother didn't leave you that watch for a museum, he continued. He left it for the one person who could finish it. Megan knows that. She's willing to pay to make it hers. In fact, he leaned in just enough for me to smell stale tobacco. She already has. He stepped back, waiting for me to hand over the satchel. I loosened my grip just slightly, enough to make it look like I was considering it. But in my head, gears were turning faster than any movement I'd built. If Megan was behind this, she was closer than I thought. A shout broke through the wind. Justin! I turned. Seth was running toward us, weaving between empty benches. He was carrying something, an envelope clutched like it might blow away. The man's posture changed instantly. He reached into his coat again, but this time I caught the glint of metal. Don't, I said sharply. Too late. Seth reached us, panting. I found this under the floorboards in the workshop. It's from Vincent. He shoved the envelope into my hand. You need to read it now. The man's eyes followed the envelope like a hawk tracking prey. That doesn't belong to you. Neither does my watch. I snapped. The cold wind rattled the shed's tin roof as I tore open the envelope. Inside was a single sheet, Vincent's precise handwriting dancing across the paper. If you're reading this, the second key is already in play. Trust only the one who winds backward. I looked at the pocket watch again, its hands ticking in reverse, and felt my chest tighten. When I glanced up, the man was gone. Just gone, no crunch of snow, no shadow retreating. Seth stood there, wide-eyed. Then I noticed the satchel strap. It was hanging loose across my shoulder. Light, too light. I yanked it around empty, and from somewhere in the crowd, faint but unmistakable, came Megan's laugh. The sound of Megan's laugh cut through the night like a blade. I spun toward it, my breath sharp in the cold. Seth was already moving, eyes locked on a row of stalls ahead. "There!" he shouted. A flash of her fur-trimmed coat slipped between a candied nut vendor and a table stacked with gingerbread houses. I pushed past startled fairgoers, ignoring the curses and hot cider sloshing to the ground. She moved fast, the crowd parting for her like they somehow knew not to get in her way. "Megan!" I called, my voice swallowed by the music blaring from the carousel. No reaction. If anything, she picked up speed. Seth and I split, flanking her path. The snow underfoot was packed hard from hundreds of boots, slick enough to make every step a risk. I caught glimpses of her through the strings of lights. Coat swinging, hands buried in pockets, head never turning back. Then she ducked under a striped awning and into the shadowed space behind the game stalls. I followed, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. The music faded, replaced by the hum of generators and the distant crack of fireworks. She was there, standing under a single flickering bulb, the satchel hanging from her shoulder like a prize. She smiled when she saw me. "You really should have locked this better, Dad. That's not yours." "Oh, it is now." She tapped the leather. "This is my ticket, $8 million minimum." Seth came up behind her, blocking the exit. "You're not walking out with that." Megan's gaze darted between us, weighing her chances. "You think I'm the only one after this? You think I'd be stupid enough to come here alone?" A shadow moved in the corner, and another figure stepped into the light. It was a man from the rink, knit cap pulled low, eyes cold. In his hand was the missing folder. "Megan," he said, "time's up." She stiffened. "We had a deal." "We did, but deals change." He glanced at me. "You want this back? Then you'd better start running, because in about 60 seconds, this fair isn't going to be so festive anymore." A low hum filled the air, metallic, rhythmic. I realized it wasn't coming from the generators. It was coming from the satchel. I reached for it. Megan jerked away, but not before I saw the thin red light blinking inside. The red blink pulsed in the dim light, steady as a heartbeat. 1, 2, 1, 2. My mind snapped through possibilities. Tracking device, signal beacon, or something far worse. "Megan," I said evenly, "where did you get that?" She shook her head. "It was already in there when I—" She stopped herself, realizing she'd just admitted stealing the satchel. The man in the knit cap smirked. "It's called insurance. Keeps everyone honest." "That's not insurance," Seth cut in. "That's a detonator." The man didn't affirm or deny, which was answer enough. I stepped toward him. "Turn it off." He lifted the folder just slightly, like a gambler showing a winning hand. "You want this? You bring that blinking little package to me in 5 minutes, by the north gate, or the whole fair sees fireworks up close." Then he vanished into the shadows again, quick as smoke. Megan stared after him, her bravado cracked. "He's bluffing." Seth shook his head. "That sound isn't a bluff. I used to work demolition in college. Countdowns have a tone." The hum was louder now, more insistent, as if it wanted everyone in earshot to know it was there. I pulled the satchel off her shoulder, set it on the ground, and eased it open. Inside, under the folded blueprints, was a small black box with a single LED pulsing red. Wires ran to a compact metal cylinder the size of a soda can. Megan took a step back. "That's not real. It can't be." I looked at her. "If you're wrong, the Christmas fair becomes a crime scene." Seth's eyes met mine. "We can't call the cops, not without explaining why we got blueprints worth millions and a possible bomb in the same bag. We're already targets." The fair's music drifted in faintly, cheerful, oblivious to the countdown under our noses. I checked my watch. For minutes. North Gate, I said. We walk there, we make the trade, and then we figure out how to deal with him. And if he doesn't keep his word? Megan asked. I zipped the satchel, slung it over my shoulder, and started walking. Then he finds out just how fast an old watchmaker can take something apart. We reached the edge of the fair, lights thinning into darkness. The North Gate loomed ahead, empty except for falling snow. Then I saw him, standing under the arch, folder in hand, waiting. But he wasn't alone. Beside him, bound to a chair with rope, was a man I hadn't seen in years. It was Vincent, and he was alive. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Snow swirled between us, dusting Vincent's shoulders like he'd been sitting there for hours. His head was lowered, but even in the dim light, I could see his eyes, open, alert, locked on mine. Vincent, I said, barely above a whisper. The man in the knit cap smiled like he'd been waiting for this exact reaction. Merry Christmas, Justin. Looks like your brother's been keeping better time than you thought. My grip on the satchel tightened. You said he was dead. I never said that, the man replied. I said you believed he was. Vincent's voice cracked through the cold, rough but strong. Don't give him the plans, Justin. The man's smile vanished. Quiet. He stepped closer to Vincent and pressed a gloved hand on his shoulder. Your brother built something that people will pay a fortune for. But money's only part of it. The real value is what it can do. I felt Seth edge closer to me, his hand near his coat pocket. Megan stood frozen, her breath clouding the air, eyes darting between Vincent and me. What can it do? I asked. The man's gaze narrowed. Let's just say it keeps time in ways nobody else can. And in the right hands, it can rewrite more than hours and minutes. The hum from the satchel was louder now, and my watch ticked against my wrist like it was impatient. 3 minutes. Bring it here, the man said. Folder for the bag. You walk away with your brother. Simple. And if I don't? He glanced at the satchel, then at the crowd of fairgoers faintly visible through the snow. Then we find out how far those little blinking lights can reach. I took a step forward, but Seth's hand caught my arm. His voice was low, urgent. Justin, look at Vincent's wrist. I did and saw it. Beneath the rope, strapped tight to his wrist, was my old pocket watch, the same one that had been ticking backward my hand just hours ago. Only now, it wasn't ticking at all. Vincent met my eyes, subtle, deliberate, and mouthed 2 words. Don't trade. I froze, the satchel heavy in my hand, the red light pulsing like a heartbeat ready to burst. And then, from somewhere deep in the fair, a single sharp crack rang out. Gunfire. The man's head snapped toward the sound, and in that instant, Vincent moved. Vincent lunged sideways, wrenching the chair just enough to break the man's grip. The ropes at his wrists snapped like they'd been cut halfway through beforehand. He was on his feet before the man could react. Move, Vincent barked. I didn't hesitate. I shoved the satchel into Seth's hands and ran toward my brother. The man in the knit cap swung at him, but Vincent ducked low and drove his shoulder into the man's gut, sending them both crashing into the snow. Megan darted forward, not toward Vincent, but toward the satchel. Megan, I shouted. She snatched it from Seth, clutching it to her chest like a lifeline, and bolted toward the dark row of vendor tents. Seth chased after her, disappearing into the shadows. The man in the knit cap scrambled to his knees, a glint of steel flashing in his hand, a knife. Vincent caught his wrist, twisting until the blade clattered into the snow. But the man was strong. He drove his elbow into Vincent's ribs and broke free. I stepped between them. It's over. He laughed, breathless. Over? No, it's just starting. From his coat, he pulled a small remote, thumb hovering over a single switch. The hum from the satchel was faint now, distant, but the red blink I'd seen earlier flashed in my mind like a warning flare. Where's the trigger for that thing? I demanded. His grin widened. You think I'd tell you? Before I could move, another shot rang out. Not from the fair, but close. Snow puffed into the air beside us where the bullet struck. The man froze, then glanced over my shoulder. I turned and saw her. Megan, standing in the glow of food stalls' lights, the satchel still slung over her shoulder and a pistol in her hands. Her face was calm, her aim steady. "Step away from him, Dad." Vincent's eyes narrowed. "Megan, you don't know what you're doing." "Oh, I know exactly what I'm doing," she said, and her voice was ice. The man in the knit cap raised his hand slowly. "We can work together. You and me, we—" A single gunshot split the air. The man collapsed into the snow. Megan lowered the pistol, her gaze still locked on me. "Now," she said, "hand me the rest of the blueprints." Snowflakes swirled between us, catching the lights in the fair and brief, icy flashes. Megan's pistol never wavered. "You got 5 seconds, Dad," she said, her voice calm, cold. "The rest of the blueprints. Now." Vincent took a slow step toward her. "Megan, listen to me. You're walking into something you don't understand." She gave a humorless laugh. "I understand just fine. You built something the world will pay millions for. And you too think I'll just watch you give it away to a museum?" I kept my hands visible, feeling the weight of the small leather folder in my coat. The satchel, the detonator, the hum, all of it was still out there in the dark. But right now, the bigger danger was 10 feet in front of me. "Megan," I said evenly, "you think owning these plans will give you power. It won't. It'll just paint a target on your back for the rest of your life." Her eyes narrowed. "Better a target than broke." Vincent's voice hardened. "And what about family? You think money will replace that?" She tilted her head. "Family?" She glanced at me. "Where was family when you ignored every call I made for help? When you chose your workbench over me?" The words landed heavy, but I didn't flinch. "That's not what this is about. You've been planning this for years." Vincent knew it. He left notes about every theft, every scam. "Shut up." Her finger tightened on the trigger. From somewhere behind the vendor tents, a sudden roar of voices and shouts rose up, chaos spreading through the fair. Seth appeared out of the darkness, panting, his face pale. "They're coming," he gasped. "Not just one or two, dozens. And they're looking for that satchel." Megan's eyes flicked toward him, and in that split second Vincent moved. He lunged, knocking her arm upward as the pistol fired. The shot cracked into the night sky, and people screamed in the distance. She fought him like a cornered animal, kicking, twisting. But Vincent held her wrist until the gun dropped into the snow. I scooped it up and stepped back, my own heart pounding. "Megan!" I shouted, "Stop before." That's when the first figure emerged from the shadows, a man in a heavy coat, his face hidden by a scarf. Behind him came another and another, their boots crunching in unison on the snow. Each one carried something in their hands, pipes, chains, a glint of steel under the fair's lights. In less than 10 seconds, we were surrounded. The leader stepped forward, eyes on me. "We'll take the plans now." And then, from somewhere deep in the crowd, that same mechanical hum started again, louder this time, like it was right beneath our feet. The hum deepened, vibrating to the packed snow under my boots. It wasn't a faint pulse from before. This was louder, closer, resonating in my bones. The ring of men closed tighter, faces shadowed, breaths steaming in the cold. The leader took another step toward me, gloved hand out. The blueprints. "Now!" I kept my coat closed, feeling the folder against my ribs. "You really want to blow up half this fair just to get them?" A flicker of something in his eyes. Fear, or maybe just calculation, if that's what it takes. Vincent shifted his weight, placing himself between me and the leader. "You don't even know what you're trying to steal." The man smirked. "Don't need to. Someone's already paying." His eyes flicked toward Megan. Her lips pressed tight, but she didn't deny it. The hum rose another pitch, now with a faint metallic click beneath it. Vincent heard it too, his head tilted, eyes narrowing. "That's not a detonator. That's a winding mechanism." It hit me then. The satchel hadn't been rigged to explode. It had been rigged to activate. And whatever it was powering was about to finish charging. Seth's voice was low. "Justin, we need to move." "Move where?" "We're boxed in." The leader extended his hand again. "Last chance." I glanced at Vincent. He gave the smallest shake of his head. Don't give them anything. That's when the snow beneath us shifted. Not a tremor, an actual movement, like something large was turning over underground. The hum cut off in an instant, leaving a hollow silence. Then, with a grinding metallic groan, the ice near the north gate split open. A shape began to rise, gears the size of cartwheels, teeth glinting in the dim light, all connected to a central column that kept climbing higher and higher. It was like watching the inside of a clock tower force its way out of the earth. Megan's eyes widened. What is that? Vincent's voice was grim. That is the heart of the watch. And if it's here, then someone's already built more of it than I thought. The leader's men stepped back instinctively, some muttering, others gripping their weapons tighter. The massive gears locked into place with a final clang that echoed across the fairgrounds. And then, from somewhere deep inside the machine, a low, deliberate ticking began. Each beat was slow, heavy, counting down. Vincent looked at me. Justin, it's not keeping time. It's measuring something else. Before I could ask what, a voice boomed out from a hidden speaker in the machine. 3 minutes. The ticking grew louder. 3 minutes. The voice echoed off the buildings, bouncing back in warped fragments. 3 minutes. The crowd around us shifted nervously, some stepping away from the massive gear column, others gripping weapons tighter, like they could fight whatever this was. The leader's eyes darted from me to the machine. Give me the plans, old man. Now. Vincent's voice cut in, sharp. If you take them, you'll have no idea how to stop that thing when the timer hits 0. The leader sneered. You think I care? Another heavy tick shook the air. My instinct told me the machine wasn't built to blow. It was built to do something worse. Seth stepped closer, his hand brushing the inside of his coat. Justin, if we move now, we can get around to the back of it. Maybe shut it down. I shook my head. Too many eyes. We won't make it. Megan's voice sliced in. Or we let it run. The chaos will be enough to disappear, and then the plans are mine. You're insane, Vincent said. She smirked. No, I'm realistic. The second minute started ticking away, each beat faster than the last. The leader's men were growing restless, muttering under their breath. The hum of fear was as loud as the machine. I made my decision. Vincent, Seth, distract them. Megan, you're with me. Her brow arched. Oh, now you want my help. You want her payday? Help me stop this thing, and maybe there's something left to sell afterward. We moved fast. Vincent and Seth started shouting at the men, shoving through them, creating just enough confusion for me to drag Megan toward the base of the machine. Up close, it was worse. Gears interlocked with delicate mechanisms, chains feeding into hidden compartments. Whoever had built it knew the original design intimately. 1 minute. The voice boomed again. I found a narrow panel bolted shut. Inside, I caught a glimpse of spinning cogs and a polished brass cylinder, the kind Vincent used for a mainspring barrel. Only this one was the size of a wine bottle. If I could unwind it, maybe the countdown would stop. But then I saw it, etched along the cylinder's rim, in Vincent's unmistakable handwriting. Release equals reset. Megan leaned in. What does that mean? It means if we stop it, it starts over. 30 seconds, the voice announced. I looked up at the towering mechanism, the crowd, Vincent wrestling with 2 men, Seth trying to keep the leader back. I could feel Megan watching me, waiting to see what I'd choose. The cylinder clicked once, twice. 10 seconds. I reached for my tools, and that's when the ticking stopped entirely. From the top of the machine, a hidden hatch swung open. A dark figure climbed out, holding something in both hands. It was the rest of the blueprints. The figure stood at the top of the machine, silhouetted against the fairground lights. Snow fell around them, flakes catching in the sharp wind. They held the stack of blueprints high, like a trophy. When they stepped forward into the light, my stomach dropped. It was Seth. Merry Christmas, he called down, his voice carrying over the crowd. Looks like I just became the highest bidder in this little auction. Vincent froze mid-struggle with one of the leader's men. Seth, what the hell are you doing? Seth smiled, a cold, measured thing. You think I've been running around playing loyal nephew? Please. I've been cleaning up both your messes for months, making sure neither of you got the upper hand before the time was right. The leader stepped forward, intrigued. And now, Seth said, I cash in. The man's crew shifted uneasily, clearly not expecting a new player in the game. Megan's grip on my arm tightened, her voice low. Tell me you didn't see this coming. I shook my head slowly. No, but I should have. From above, Seth crouched near the hatch and held the blueprints over the opening. You all want them so badly? Then you better start making offers before I drop them into the core. Once they're shredded, none of you get anything. Vincent's voice was hoarse. Seth, that machine isn't just a showpiece. You drop them in there, you could trigger. Oh, I know exactly what I'll trigger, Seth cut in. That's the beauty of it. Another heavy groan came from the gears, as if the machine itself was reacting to his words. The leader barked at his men to move closer, but none of them seemed eager to get near the towering structure. I stepped forward, my voice steady despite the ice in my veins. You think you can control what happens next? That thing doesn't care about money, Seth. It's a clock. It'll keep ticking with or without you. He smirked. Then I guess we'll see who it's ticking for. The wind picked up, swirling snow into the air. I could barely see Seth now, just his outline against the dim glow of the machine. The blueprints fluttered in his hand, dangerously close to slipping. 5 seconds to make me an offer, he called out, or they're gone. Vincent started to push through the ring of men, desperation in his voice. Justin, don't let him. But before he could finish, a sudden metallic clang rang out. From somewhere deep inside the machine, a section of gears disengaged, and the entire column shuddered violently. Seth lost his balance. The blueprints slipped from his grasp, and a black-gloved hand shot out from the hatch, catching them in midair. The black-gloved hand pulled the blueprints back into the hatch before Seth could react. His shout of anger was lost in the sudden roar of the machine's gears grinding into a new rhythm. A second later, the figure emerged tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a heavy coat dusted with frost. A dark scarf hid most of their face, but the eyes, cold, pale, unblinking. The leader of the men stepped back. His voice cracked with something I hadn't heard from him before, fear. The stranger's gaze swept over us, then down to Vincent and me. He held the blueprints like they weighed nothing, then tucked them into his coat. Who the hell are you? I called up. His voice was calm, almost polite. The one your brother didn't tell you about. Vincent stiffened beside me. You were supposed to be dead. That's the thing about time, the man said. If you know how to bend it, death is just a pause. The machine let out another deep groan, as if the weight of the conversation alone was winding it tighter. The ticking resumed, faster now, each beat matching the thumb of my pulse. Seth, still clinging to the top rail, tried to edge toward the hatch. We had a deal, he shouted. The stranger didn't even look at him. You were a placeholder. Boy, nothing more. With a casual motion, he shoved Seth backward. Seth fell, landing hard in the snow. He groaned, clutching his side, but he was alive. The stranger looked down at the rest of us. In 1 minute, this machine will do exactly what it was built for. None of you can stop it now. But you have a choice. Leave and live with the regret, or stay and watch history end. Megan's voice was shaky. End? What do you mean end? He ignored her, stepping back into the hatch. The ticking climbed another pitch, a relentless march towards something none of us understood. Vincent grabbed my arm. Justin, that's not just a clock. It's a regulator for everything. I stared at him. I mean, he said grimly, when it strikes, the time we know stops. 30 seconds, the machine's voice announced. The stranger's pale eyes met mine one last time before he disappeared inside. I turned to Vincent, desperate. How do we stop it? His answer was barely a whisper over the ticking. We'd have to destroy the heart. I looked up at the massive column of gears, the impossible tangle of machinery, and saw, for the first time, a faint red glow pulsing deep within its core. 15 seconds. And then, without warning, the glow shifted and began to spread outward through the gears. The red glow bled to the steel teeth of the gears like molten metal, growing brighter with each tick. Snow hissed into steam where it touched the heat radiating from the machine's core. 10 seconds, the voice echoed, flat and merciless. Vincent's grip on my arm tightened. Justin, listen. If you hit the mainspring barrel with enough force, it'll throw the whole movement off balance. But you have to get to it now. The glow was already climbing toward the top of the mechanism, tracing through gear spokes like veins of fire. The crowd that had gathered was breaking apart, men dropping weapons, shoving past each other, fleeing toward the fair's lights. The leader was gone. Even Megan was backing away, eyes wide. I shoved the pistol into my belt and stepped toward the base of the column. Cover me. Vincent didn't argue. He planted himself between me and the scattering mob, snatching up a dropped pipe for good measure. The hum from the cord deepened into a throbbing vibration I could feel in my teeth. 5 seconds. I reached the panel we'd found earlier and wrenched it open, bolts snapping under the strain. Inside, the brass cylinder, the heart, spun with impossible speed. The etched letters release equals reset flashing by in a blur. Seth staggered up beside me, clutching his ribs. If you break it, what happens? No idea, I said, but it's better than letting that thing do what it's meant to. I drew the pistol, aimed at the center of the barrel, and waited for the rotation to line up. 3, 2, the shot rang out, deafening an enclosed space. The bullet struck dead center, sparks flying. The barrel shuddered, then screamed as its rotation faltered. The ticking stopped. For a single, perfect second, everything was silent. No wind, no hum, no crowd noise. Even the snow seemed frozen in midair. Then the machine let out a sound like tearing metal, and the red glow erupted outward in a blinding flash. I was thrown back into the snow, the cold shocking against my face. My ears rang. When I forced my eyes open, the gears were still turning, but now in reverse. Vincent's voice reached me through the haze. Justin, you didn't stop it. You reversed it. The snow around us wasn't falling anymore. It was rising, drifting upward into the night sky. Lights from the fair warped and bent, like reflections on water being pulled backward. Megan's scream cut through the chaos. Look! I followed her gaze and felt my blood run cold. The stranger was climbing out of the hatch again. Only now, he wasn't holding the blueprints. He was holding a watch. My watch. And it was ticking backward. The stranger stood in the glow of the reverse machine, snow spiraling upward around him like a slow-motion storm. My watch dangled from his gloved fingers, ticking backward, each click an echo in my chest. Vincent stepped forward, voice tight. That watch was never meant to be in your hands. The stranger smiled faintly. On the contrary, it was built for my hands. Your brother knew that. Didn't you, Justin? I shook my head. I don't know who you are. Oh, you do. You've seen my work every time you open one of Vincent's prototypes. I was the shadow partner, the one who designed the part that can do this. He gestured to the frozen, reverse world around us. Time is just a sequence. Break the sequence, you own everything. Megan stepped closer, eyes locked on the watch. Then give it to me. I'll pay you more than... Silence, the stranger said without looking at her. You have no place in this. Vincent's voice was low, urgent. Justin, he can't finish what he started without the original heart, the one in your pocket. I froze. My hand went in my coat, feeling the small, weighty shape, the spare mainspring barrel Vincent had given me years ago, just in case. I'd forgotten it was there. The stranger's eyes followed the movement. Ah, so that's where it went. He stepped toward me. I took a breath, feeling the cold bite at my lungs. You want this? You'll have to take it. For a long second, we just stared at each other, the machine groaning behind us, the fair beyond its shadow completely still. Then he lunged. I sidestepped, driving my shoulder into his ribs. The watch flew from his hand, spinning through the air. Vincent caught it, twisting the crown violently. The ticking stuttered, then stopped. The world shuddered. Snow paused mid-ascent, lights flickered. The machine screamed like it was being torn apart from the inside. Now, Justin, Vincent shouted. I hurled the mainspring barrel into machine's exposed core. The gear seized instantly, and the red glow imploded into a blinding white flash. When my vision cleared, the machine was gone, only scorched snow and a silence so deep it hurt my ears. The stranger lay on the ground, unmoving. Megan was kneeling, staring at her empty hands. Seth stood off to the side, eyes wide, the weight of what he'd done written across his face. Vincent looked at me, then at the watch in his palm, now still, forever frozen at midnight. "It's over," he said. I glanced at Megan. "No, it's just the end one time." We walked away from the wreckage together, the frozen watch between us. The fair sound slowly returned, laughter, music, bells, like nothing had happened. But I knew better. Somewhere in that final reverse second, I'd felt it. A choice had been made. Time had let us go, for now. And as I locked the workshop door that night, I placed the dead watch on my bench, whispering to it like an old friend. You and I aren't finished yet. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the right.